trenches. Ask a nigga what he benching. Triple digits, nigga, don't forget to mention. Whole hard in the trenches. Ask a nigga what he benching. Triple digits, nigga, don't forget to mention. Don't forget I got memories, dead stain the whole room if I let them bleed. Shit was dark, I let this little light of
The playlist going so it can be a little bit more variety. No impression my shit though. No impression is my shit. Hey, hold on, bro. Hold on, bro. Hold on, bro. You said you ain't listen to Go-Go since like 95.
96 was backyard. Used to put the dated tapes out.
There is no way you tapped out that early. There's no way you tapped out that early.
Backyard, junkyard, groovers, red essence. Those are the last time I listened to Go-Go.
I tapped out 2012, 2013. It was literally when I stopped playing in the Go-Go band. I went to college, bruh. That's when I tapped out, bruh. But that's crazy. I would have thought.
I know this around. I'll say around the younger age, like around your age group, that's when everybody started creating bands. Like that's when it got real heavy in there. I mean, it was always in the area, but like once everybody realized, oh, we could play this shit. So, Go-Go started really pumping up like around your time.
Yeah, man, it definitely did, bruh. That shit was fun though. That shit was fun because without that, I probably wouldn't have went to half of the Go-Go's that I went to. And just to be able to be there without having to pay, like we always up there and vibing, bruh, listening to the music before we play or after we play. Mm-hmm. That was the easiest thing to do. You ain't got to pay no goddamn money. Just show up and play, bruh. Just show up and play. Damn, Dre, I ain't know you tapped out that early, bro. I would have thought you at least into the 2000s, but I guess it is what it is, bro.
That was it for me, man. That was the mid '90s. That was it. That was my golden age for Go-Go.
Oh man, hey. So, first and foremost, welcome back to another episode of the Trapper Dive podcast, everybody. I appreciate everybody who will be tuning in live, who is tuning in live right now. Obviously, administrative things, Twitch. If you're watching now and you aren't following, make sure you follow. That's the best way to be a part of the show each and every week, each and every episode. This is a followers only chat, so best way to get involved is to hit that follow button. YouTube, like, subscribe if you aren't subscribed to the Trapper Dive YouTube channel. You'll never miss every clip. I mean any clip, every clip too. But you won't miss any clips with us. Stay subscribed. Make sure you just pay attention. You know what I'm saying? Have them alerts on and stuff like that. And then lastly, if you are listening to the podcast, stop what you're doing right now and give us a rating. It takes 2 seconds. Help us out.
Positive rating.
No 1 stars. You know the vibes, bro. No 1 stars, man. Help us out. Give us a little rate, man. Give us your opinion if you want to, like a sentence or two. You know what I'm saying? Help us out. Let the people know what type of show that we got going on over here on the Trap Dive podcast. All right. Hey, man, it's preview day. It's preview night. I got my boy Dre with me, the co-host. Big dog. Dre, how you feeling today, boss?
Feeling great, man. It's Thursday, so the weekend right around the corner. I always start getting in a real good mood on Thursday. Plus, man, I'm just getting more. Every day that goes by, I'm just ready for this game, man. I'm ready to play the Bills, man.
Absolutely. Like for me, Thursday is the primer. Like you said, I have, first and foremost, do you have any action on tonight's game? The Texans and the Panthers.
I was thinking about it, but I said, no, I'm just going to enjoy it tonight. I'm just going to watch the 2 QBs go at it.
The hell with that. I got action on it. I need action. I need that action. I
saw action on Saturdays. Let me get my college football going.
Hey, I got 1 play for Saturday right now, and I may double up depending on how tonight is. I'm only got 1 unit on tonight, and that's the Houston plus 7.5. I'm going to take them because I think, look, there's one thing that I've been preaching. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm going to be right. But it's a theory that I learned a long time ago, and I will never forget the lesson that I learned. And the lesson that I learned, bruh, I don't know if you ever remember Nick Mullen's first start, but it came on a Thursday night for the San Francisco 49ers. And prior to him being ruled the starter, they were just waiting in the wings, I think, for Jimmy Garoppolo, his status for that Thursday night game against the Oakland Raiders at the time. They were 6-point favorites, the San Francisco 49ers were. Up to around 6-point favorites. When Garoppolo got ruled out and Nick Mullins was going to be his first start, That line went from 6-point favorites for the San Francisco 49ers to 1-point favorites the same day of game day to 1-point favorites for the Oakland Raiders. Bruh, when I tell you I bet Oakland, because I thought I was ahead of the curve, I bet Oakland, and them motherfuckers lost 34-3. Now, bruh, I was so mad. They didn't stand a chance, but they could not stop the San Francisco 49ers offense, and their defense was just on point. I think the main thing to take away from that whole thing was it's not the fact that it's the two teams that's going up against, it's always that the line is exaggerated. They're always going to exaggerate the line with stuff like that. So you got to be careful, and I think this is one of those moments where while Carolina, I think, is okay. I don't think like they're one of the best 2-0 teams, but they're okay, and I like what they're doing over there. I don't know if they're 7.5 points better than the Houston Texans, even though they have a random quarterback, quote unquote random. He's a rookie third rounder. He's still talented, clearly, but I don't think they're that much better tonight. And I'm gonna test that theory out and see if that line is over exaggerated. And I'm gonna take them Texans, bro. And you know what I'm saying? Look, I'm gonna have myself a good night. I ain't gonna say it on stream what I'm up to, but I'm gonna have myself a good night and watch the game.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what Davis Mills does, man. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how he performs in his first start in the NFL. I mean, personally, I thought he wasn't ready yet, but we'll see. Good luck, man.
Well, look, I appreciate that, because there's a lot of people online telling me they got Davis Mills, and that's all that needs to be said. Go Carolina. I'm like, all right, bet. Well, we're gonna see. Hopefully you wrong, because when I'm right, and if I win, I'm gonna be right back on that Twitter talking shit. Like, where y'all at now, bro? Especially those people who don't bet.
Like I said, I'm with you. I feel like if you start the week off right, we starting the week off right. So, my action gonna look good on Saturday.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, everybody who is in here, if you want to get some things off your chest about what the keys to the Washington football team beating the Buffalo Bills, the number is 443-242-4479. I will also put it in the chat for you all who are in here. 443-242-4479. You can call in right now, get some things off your chest, your keys to a Washington football win in Buffalo. Taylor Heineke's first start on the road. First thing first, Dre, let's go ahead and get this injury report out the way. This is as of Thursday. We have, all right, here we go. Two people on the Washington football team's injury list. That's Matt Ioannidis and Antonio Gibson. As far as we know right now, Antonio Gibson was a full participant in Thursday practice. Matt Ioannidis is limited. Ioannidis dealing with a knee injury and Gibson dealing with a shoulder. And then we have, Jesus Christ, the Buffalo Bills. Their list is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people on their injury list. I'll just list the people that did not participate in full, did not participate, were actually due to rest. That's Mario Addison and Emmanuel Sanders. And then you had full participants in Tremaine Edwards and F.A. Obata. They were both full participants. And I guess I might as well name, because these are some key players. Micah Hyde was limited. Star Lotulelei was limited, and Levi Wallace was limited as well. So those are some key names to look forward to as far as Sunday's game. They were limited or did not participate due to rest. Dre, you had an article, man, a preview one that was pretty good, and I just want to get a floor to you right now to talk about the things that you covered in your article, your matchups, who had the advantage and where, and also some things that you're going to be paying attention to for this Sunday's game against the Buffalo Bills. So I'll go ahead and hand the floor to you, and you can get some things off your chest on some general observations and whatever it is what else you want to cover with Buffalo.
I mean, it's an interesting battle. And like I said earlier in my blog, I highlighted the coaches and as well as some, key the keys to the game for the Washington football team. But I mean, the coaching battle in itself is interesting. I always love, like, one of the things I love to do is I love to go through a coach's history and kind of just see where their tree falls. In this game right here, you have so much history between a lot of the coaches, like Ron Rivera, Sean McDermott, Leslie Frazier. All of these guys are connected from way back. I mean, they all started coaching together in Philly. Ron and Leslie played in Chicago together in the 80s. So, this is a matchup, like I said, where you have two people that are very familiar with you got three coaches that are very familiar with each other, probably a number of others on the staffs as well. But the offensive coordinator battle, the offensive coordinator versus DCs. You got Scott Turner versus Leslie Frazier, and we all know, Scott, he's still a little green, but I think he's growing, and we get to see what his offense looks like with competent quarterback play. But Leslie Frazier, oh man, I mean, he's a beast.
Yes.
Like this dude, he's been a beast. Buffalo has been a beast since he's been there, and he throws everything but the kitchen sink at you. So that's one thing Scott's going to have these boys ready for this week, as far as getting Taylor prepared and not letting Taylor just be, getting blasted back there. We can't afford that because Leslie's going to send them, and he's going to send them from all angles. And then on the other side, you got Jack Del Rio for us, and you have Brian DeBall for the Bills, who's the offensive coordinator. Now, DeBall, he had his first good season as an offensive coordinator last year. This is his 8th year now as offensive coordinator, and I think it's his 4th year with the Bills.
8th year as offensive coordinator?
Yeah, now he comes from the Eric Mangini coaching tree. So, Eric Mangini didn't really have success. In his sense as head coach. And the offenses weren't ever successful either. But you got to give Brian DeBall some credit for what he did with Josh Allen last year, kind of changing the perception that was on him, because a lot of people thought Josh Allen was a bust. And then last year, Josh Allen turns himself into one of the elite quarterbacks, and he fixes his accuracy issues. But some of those issues have been flaring up in the first 2 games of the season. So a lot of people are going to start wondering if that's an anomaly or if it's a fluke. But we'll see this week. I mean, because we are known as the get right team. People are known to get right on us. So you hope that Josh Allen doesn't find his 2020 footing tonight against us. And just overall, a couple of players highlighted, of course, for us, Jonathan Allen. Jonathan Allen's been fantastic the first 2 games. I think he's been the best player on the defense. Anyone watching film has recognized that, as well as PFF thinks really highly of him. He has the highest rated grade on our whole team. And on the Buffalo side, you have Matt Milano. He's the 5th-year linebacker for Buffalo. He's actually graded out to be the number 1 linebacker in football this year. So he's been playing great football.
Wait, say that again. He's the number 1 rated.
He's the guy that Leslie. Yeah, he's the number 1 rated linebacker in football through 2 games so far, according to PFF, that is. So this is a guy to watch out for in that Buffalo defense. He's a guy that, while he doesn't get home and get the sacks, he's a guy that fills the gaps pretty easily. And Leslie Frazier loves sending him on blitzes to free up the outside rushers. So that's a couple of things I highlighted earlier in my blog.
Oh, wow. Bruce entered. All right, well, as long as he knows, you know what I'm saying, he entered really early. Okay. All right, so yeah, I think go ahead and then here we go. All right. So I think one of the things that we can discuss right quick is the fact that you made note of Josh Allen. Last year, for those who aren't aware, with Josh Allen, and I'm gonna pull it up. What is going on with my links, my quick links? Either way, one of the things that Josh Allen did last year was he was one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL, if not the most efficient, at least in the regular season. And last year he had 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 69% completion percentage, 4,500 yards, man. And that's not even talking about the rushing yards that he had. Matter of fact, they were at 102 rushes, 421 yards, 8 touchdowns on the ground, 4 yards a carry. and that's kind of where he was at as a rusher as well. I think it's fair to say, like, when you have that good of a season, and I've said this on my All 32 side when it comes to Justin Herbert, when you have that good of a season, like out of nowhere that nobody really saw coming, Justin Herbert in that same boat, the odds are you're going to regress the next year. Like, you're not going to maintain those same numbers. But the question is, to what degree do you regress? Is it going to be a major drop off, like that's proven that it's going to be an anomaly? Or is it going to be something where it's like, all right, he's still good, but that's probably as good as it'll get for this player? And I guess that's what we're trying to determine here with Josh Allen right now, man. And I guess we'll see. But in your eyes, 2 games in, because you was able to see the Steelers game, and then we talked about the Dolphins game on Twitter. I was able to see that one. Where are you at with his regression? Like, what do you make of it? Is this something where you're thinking that last year was the anomaly, or is this something where you just got to excuse me, you just got to see a little bit more until you can make a final decision on Josh Allen.
Well, yeah, I definitely think I will have to see a little bit more because it's 2 games. But the thing is, his first couple of years in the league, he was inaccurate, and that was one of the knocks coming on him out of college as well. When he came out of Wyoming, that was his knock, that he barely completed 60% of his passes. I think he may have been sub 60% in a couple of those years in Wyoming.
Oh yeah, he definitely.
So that's one of those things that if you listen to a lot of the quarterback gurus and people who scout and all of that, they always say accuracy is one of those things you just can't fix. Bill Parcells was a big proponent of that. Bill Parcells would say, well, if you weren't over like 63 or 64%, then that's just who you were. So that's the thing. Even Jay Gruden said it. He said it's one of those things that you just can't fix. He said Josh Allen is an anomaly in the sense that he did fix it last year. But again, it was 1 year, and you would like to see more of that. And like I said, it's still too early to say, but in a couple of games I watched, I've seen those inconsistencies flashing. I've seen him throw some pretty balls. Even in the Miami game, he threw some pinpoint needles to his wide receivers down the field. But then there's other plays where he would just try to fit it into a window that's not there. Or if you bring some pressure at him, a lot of times, yes, he can extend the plays. That's what makes him dangerous. But a lot of times he's going to make a stupid decision when he's also trying to extend the plays. He'll make a throw that just baffles you. So I've seen that in both of the games that I've watched to the Bills this year so far. So, but again, I would like to see a little more before I say, oh, it was an anomaly last year.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I noticed, this isn't necessarily a football technical term or anything, but I did notice that I feel like he's just not completely there mentally. And what I mean by that is some of these routine throws, like line of scrimmage, 2-yard passes, he's getting ahead of himself. Like sometimes he's not even remembering his true mechanics or anything. He's just throwing the ball or trying to flick it out there and forgetting how to really throw the football. And this is specifically with the Pittsburgh game that I noticed. I guess like when some pressure's in his face, or he's just thinking too much, he just forgets a lot of things or he's forgot too much about just actually just throwing the football, bro. Routine plays, routine situations, countless repetitions, and he's forgetting the basics of playing football at the quarterback position. And that's just my concept or my takeaway from some of the instances of him just being inaccurate. It's like, bruh, like you've done this 1,000 times. How is it so difficult for you to complete a 2-yard pass right now? Like it wasn't an issue for you last year. You seemingly corrected it, and then all of a sudden, it's become a problem again. I just question where he's at, like mentally in the headspace. Like, does he have like some internal pressure on him, anything like that? I don't know, and it's not my job. Like the story will come out eventually if this becomes a thing that for the entire season. We'll know a lot more. But that's just kind of my takeaway with Allen. And I guess to transition outside of just the quarterback position in general, that offense. What does Washington's defense need to do to have a quote unquote successful outing against Buffalo, the Buffalo Bills and their offense?
Well, it starts in the trenches. I mean, that's where this game is going to start. It's going to start with your defensive line dominating their offensive line. Now, Buffalo doesn't have the greatest offensive line. I think they have, an average at best offensive line, and certainly so far this season, I mean, they've been performing around that level. So I think if you start winning the back there, because another person to watch out for in the backfield is Devon Secretary. Now, Devon Secretary is averaging over 5 yards a carry this season, and he has home run breaking ability. So, if he gets to that second level, it's trouble for your defense. But again, it starts with in the trenches with Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne first off clogging the middle up. But then you get Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Like Chase Young, it's time for him to be disruptive. Like it's time for him to be in the guy we drafted at number 2 last year. Like I said, I'm not upset with Chase yet. I'm not, falling off the Chase Young bandwagon yet because it's way too early for that. It's just 2 games in. But at some point, you want to start seeing those flashes of him disrupting the game. And if there's any line that you can do it to, it should be this Buffalo Bills line, who, like I said, they don't have Rashawn Slater at left tackle or anything over there. So that's where it starts there. You stop you kill their offensive line, and also don't let Devin Singletary get off. And we know what Stephon Diggs and guys like Cole Beasley can do. And they even have the vet Emmanuel Sanders as well. That's another guy. So our cornerbacks have to step up too, because we know they've been playing like ass. So you got Kendall Fuller, St. Juice, and William Jackson. This needs to be a game that they all get their money in. So yeah.
I think that you said something really good about Chase, man, and just that production thing. Now, you wasn't here on Monday when I had this conversation. I had this conversation with a caller, and I think the best thing, because somebody left a comment on YouTube crying, basically getting that cold from the post game episode where he was calling out Chase.
Oh yeah.
And he was just saying, like, bruh, like, you couldn't be more wrong in your opinion. You're an idiot. Sit back, watch my Washington football team go to work, all these things. And I think the best thing that you can do, Dre, especially on our platform, bruh, is we don't hide from the tough conversations. Like, yes, sure, we're Washington fans, but we're not going to fucking sit here and be like narrow-minded in our opinions and viewpoints. Like, if we see something and if we feel some type of way, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. And guess what?
Yeah.
Chase Young is in a position right now where he's being challenged as a professional edge rusher. He's being challenged by the NFL. The NFL are finding ways to stop him and stop Montez Sweat, albeit Montez Sweat is having a little bit more success right now early on, 2 games in. But Chase Young is facing some challenges, and that's part of being a professional in any profession. And you said something that stood out and that you want to see a little bit more. You need to see a little bit more production. That's perfectly fine. Chase Young said on the 22nd, today's the 23rd, so that was yesterday, he said that the expectations remains high for the defense, and he likes that people hold them to a higher standard. Well, guess what? That's exactly what we're doing. We're holding him to a higher standard. We're holding that defense to a higher standard. There should be no other reason for why Washington fans cannot sit here and understand that, yes, while he's doing really good in the run game, he's not there yet as a pass rusher, and that's perfectly fine. Like, but just understand he has work to do. And I think you called something out that was really good, bro. And one of the things that I do agree with you for today or Sunday's game, is the fact that this defense up front is going to have to really get to Josh Allen. And one of the best things that I saw when Pittsburgh played them, because Miami, they were just, they looked like they didn't know football that day. The Steelers, they were able to create pressure with TJ Watt and obviously his other teammates, but they were able to create pressure with their front four or front three, really, and just general, like, having people in his face at all times. And that was kind of rattling Josh Allen as well. He was on the move. He was never really 100% settled, and sometimes when he was, that's where the inaccuracies came from. So he was kind of under duress for most part of the game, and I think that's kind of where Washington has to start. They have to start, because you mentioned the secondary. It's not even just the secondary, but these linebackers, man, have struggled mightily in coverage, and the fact that you have guys who's going to be challenged from the slot receivers, Emmanuel Sanders or even Stephon Diggs, when they line him up at the slot position, it'll be a long day, bro, if they can't create any pressure. Because I think, like you said, it's gonna be an opportunity for a get right game for Buffalo, as is the opportunity that exists for Washington's defense to get right against the Buffalo Bills, who's also struggling. So that's where I'm at with it, man. It's gonna be interesting. I think that's the important storylines of this game, is the offense of Buffalo versus the defense of Washington.
Well, before we transition, I did want to point out that a Buffalo fan actually reached out to me. I don't know this guy at all, but he reached out to me today and says, hey, I think Heineke has it, man. He said, this coming from a Buffalo fan, and I'm a little worried about your team this week because you all resemble the Steelers team we played before the Dolphins. And he said he thinks that the Dolphins game was a setup game for them. That's just some perspective from the Buffalo side.
Hey, look, he understands. Like, a 35-point beat down can kind of loosen you up a little bit, man, and put your guard down. So he's not. I get where he's coming from, for sure. All right, so everybody that's here, man. So listen, we're about to go ahead and get ready to talk to Bruce Nolan, SB Nation. Bruce Nolan covers the Bills for them, and we'll transition. We'll be back after this break, and we can get right into that interview. Right here, back in the transition. Let me go ahead and switch to the Zoom screen. Here we go. All right. Do we got Bruce? Bruce, you here, boss man?
I can hear you all right. How about yourself?
Yes, sir. I'm good. We can hear you loud and clear, my brother. Thank you for joining us. And for those who don't know, ladies and gentlemen, joining us tonight on the Trap or Die podcast, we have Bruce Nolan. Bruce covers the Bills on multiple platforms, SB Nation's Buffalo Rumblings and the Bruce Exclusive, which is part of the Buffalo Rumblings podcast network. How's everything going for you today, boss man? It's been a good day for you?
Yeah, it's been a good day. You know, anytime you're coming off a victory week, the job gets a little bit easier. And so much like you guys got a W, job gets a little bit easier. Bills got a W, job gets a little easier.
Yes, and a 35-point beatdown at that, man. And look, Miami didn't seem to have everything. Like they seemed out of whack, man. But at the same time, Buffalo, especially on the defensive side, they were just pretty. They just executed flawlessly. It seemed like, or damn near perfect, if anything. And it was pretty good to see on the defensive side of the football. So Bruce, let me ask you this question. Understanding that Washington is in the position that they're in, just from a overall organizational standpoint, and Buffalo has gone through the transition or transformation that they've gone through under Scott McDermott. Just help our listeners out and walk us through the trials and tribulations that Buffalo has gone through to now being considered AFC title contenders.
Well, the first thing is they didn't have to deal with dogs barking in the background while they're trying to do a podcast. That's the first thing that they didn't have to go through that I unfortunately have to go through on some occasions. However, they did have to deal with big personalities. They had to deal with, I know it's every single coach in the world's job when they come in to say things like, we're going to change the culture. Everybody says that. Sean McDermott, just like every other Buffalo Bills head coach before him, said the same thing. The difference is he actually managed to do it. They were good in identifying very early on the players that were going to be a part of their future and the players that were not. And being able to find people who are going to buy in after years and years of being asked to buy in to another coach, another regime, another scheme, only to see another year with no playoffs is a big ask. Telling these players, hey, I understand that you have been through multiple people before. I get that. I understand you just came off Rex Ryan, but I need you to hang in with me a little bit longer. That's really difficult. When you trade away Sammy Watkins and Ronald Darby for picks and things, and you get players coming back who are not quite their caliber, then you think to yourself, okay, now I'm asking even more from my team. So it's a matter of being able to locate the players who are going to buy in while you're making maneuvers that cause the remainder of the NFL and even some people in your own fan base to think you were tanking. A lot of people thought the Bills were tanking in 2017. They ended up making the playoffs that year. And one of the things that really benefited Sean McDermott is that making the playoffs year one granted him instant credibility in this franchise. You get a nice long leash when you break a 17-year playoff drought. They're like, listen, man, we're about to build you a statue. You went 9-7. So for them, it was a real significant part of building the culture early. Then after that, it was a matter of getting the quarterback. And Josh Allen came in his second year. The Bills went back to the playoffs again. And a lot of people bought into Josh Allen. So this team, they bought into Sean McDermott first. And then they bought into Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane's handpicked quarterback. And if you buy into the quarterback and you buy into the coach, you're probably going to buy into the system. You're probably going to have a lot of buy-in. You're going to believe in the franchise and where they're going. And that's where Sean McDermott was able to get this franchise moving in the right direction.
So from a fan perspective, just understand that you are in the Bills community. From a fan's perspective, what was the temperature like on a quarterback like Josh Allen, especially his first couple years, and then that explosion the previous year, and now where we're here in 2021, it's only 2 games in, but statistically, and there has been some moments on film and in games too where he's kind of is looking like these aren't the same. This isn't the 2020 Josh Allen. What has been a fan base viewpoint over the years of Josh Allen and how they came around on him, or were they always in on Josh Allen when he got here?
There was a certain section of the fan base that was going to be in regardless. And there's always going to be that section of the fan base. You have that section of the fan base too. These are the people who are true believers. Every draft pick is the best idea in the history of mankind. Every free agent signing is the best idea in the history of mankind. These are people who don't actually have opinions before the decision is made. So before the draft, they have no opinions at all. And they keep that open so that whatever the team decides to do, they can come back and say it's going to be great without being intellectually dishonest. They just have no opinions whatsoever. And then whenever you have a contrary opinion, they sing things like, well, so you think you know more than the team? That's what those people say.
This is why there's always the coach and you're not.
Exactly. No, these are armchair quarterbacks. This is the reason why. This is the reason why there's always going to be a subsection of fans in any fan base that are going to be all in regardless. But deep down in the recesses of their heart of hearts, where they don't want to talk about it, a lot of people in this fan base didn't want Josh Allen. They wanted Josh Rosen. They wanted Sam Darnold. They wanted Baker Mayfield. They didn't want Josh Allen. When they drafted him, they said, well, I guess he's our Josh now. And then there was a certain subsection that said that the year the Bills went 10-6 and went to the playoffs in 2019, that was good enough from Josh Allen. Even though he was bottom third in the league in a lot of major metrics, and the team was winning in much more so due to their defense than due to Josh Allen, they said, he's the guy. I'm convinced he's the guy. Because the last time they saw the playoffs was with Tyrod Taylor, who they thought was not the guy. And then the last time before that was 17 years prior. So they said, oh my gosh, a hand-picked quarterback from this regime who made the playoffs. Let's go. I'm in. So then there was a second wave. The first wave was always on board. The second wave was, we made the playoffs with Josh Allen. The third wave was 2020. Was, okay, he's playing at an elite level. This is the 13-3 MVP votes, arguably top 3 quarterback in the league sort of play in 2020. Now, all the people who were a little bit gun shy about giving him $258 million guaranteed, they're starting to feel a little weird now, 2 games in. They're starting to feel ghosts of Carson Wentz start to come around and grab them around the neck while they're sleeping. But for the other people, they're like, listen, man, it's 2 games, right? Josh Allen had 2 games that were equivalently less desirable last year. He ended up having an MVP level season. People have bad games. It's a sample size issue. So for a lot of fans, where you're at now depends on when you came on board.
That is an elite response. That is an elite response right there. So
actually, Jamal, I wanted to ask Bruce this really quick. Well, since we were on that note, what's the pulse? Because around here, everyone always hates the offensive coordinator. So now Scott Turner's the guy that everyone hates in this fan base for whatever reasons. What's the pulse of the fan base regarding your offensive coordinator, Brian DeBall? I mean, do you all give him credit for Josh Allen, or does the fan base kind of iffy on him because of his prior resume?
I would love to tell you that that's a uniquely Washington football team fan base sort of thing, but it's not. The hatred of the offensive coordinator is really a defense mechanism from the fan base. It's because it's so much easier to hate on the guy in the booth who you don't see on the field, because you don't want to admit to yourself that the players aren't playing well, because it's a more complicated fix. In the mind of fans, firing and replacing the offensive coordinator is easy. It's not, mind you, they just think it is. So what happens is, whenever the offense isn't playing well, it's the offensive coordinator's fault. Why? Because we don't want to admit that the $258 million man isn't playing well. We don't want to say that, because the ramifications of that acceptance are more significant than, well, let's just fire the guy in the booth who we never really see. In our head, it's out of sight, out of mind. So the offensive coordinator is the first one to get blamed anytime something bad happens. And it was the same with Brian Daboll in 2019. There were a lot of people who wanted to fire him in 2019. Then in 2020, they got muzzled. And now all of a sudden in 2021, they're going, look, see, Josh just made Daboll look good for a year, but he's really holding him back. He's holding him back. Why are we doing all these dumb things? And anytime something is creative and it works, then it's brilliant. If it's creative and it fails, then it's cute. Oh, we try to get too cute. Mind you, if the flea flicker works, they think it's brilliant. If the flea flicker doesn't work, then it's too cute. It's just so easy. It is the path of least resistance amongst fan bases to blame the offensive coordinator. So the Bills fans do it too.
So, Bruce, to this point, I personally like what you all did over the past couple of seasons. Adding Cole Beasley, I think 2 years ago, Stephon Diggs last year, Emmanuel Sanders this offseason, and not to mention Devon Secretary, Dakota. See, now you got Bruce. You're talking about dogs. I got dogs too. So you know what I'm saying. We're not too distant from in that regard. But obviously adding Devon Singletary and Matt Brady as well. From a Washington standpoint, how can we expect Buffalo to try and attack Washington's defense, who is not off to the best start themselves?
I think what you'll see probably from the Buffalo offense is you will see a different commitment to the running game than you've historically seen. And I think that 2 games in, one of the things that you've noticed from the Buffalo offense is they've been in empty a lot this offseason, and they haven't been smashing the easy buttons as much as they usually do. And by the easy buttons, I mean motion, play action, RPO. They didn't hit them as much so far this year as they had in 2020. I would anticipate 2 games is probably a markedly enough significant sample size for the Buffalo Bills to decide, you know what? I think it's time we go back to hitting the easy buttons, because when you have the easy buttons with a quarterback who has a howitzer attached to his right arm and can make plays with his legs, that makes it more dangerous. Let's not overcomplicate this thing. So I would anticipate an uptick in play action, an uptick in RPO, and an uptick in motion from the Buffalo Bills offense relative to what they've done in the past 2 weeks.
So I understand from just reading around, it's really hard. First off, I will say this every single week. I hate NFL Game Pass right now for stripping us from all 22 access, man. It's incredible, and it's hard to really even evaluate on your own what you're seeing from the coach's film standpoint, and just having to watch the condensed film. It is what it is. We make use of it, but from what I understand is just in looking up Buffalo Bills articles and concerns and stuff like that, there was a concern about the offensive line, and to this point in the season, it hasn't been, well, the Steelers game was one thing, but it wasn't that bad in the Dolphins game. Is this that potential weakness that Washington will be able to exploit, or are there some other areas or aspects of that offense that Washington can kind of pinpoint or exploit for their benefit?
There are some things on the Bills offensive line that I would go against if I was the Washington defensive coordinator. The first one is that the left tackle, Deion Dawkins, is still recovering from a bout with COVID. Your left guard, John Feliciano, has never been a strong pass blocker. So when you have players like Chase Young, when you have players like Matt Ioannidis, you have players who can be stacked on that left side of the offense and come across. You have some stunts, you have some games, you have things you can do to be able to generate pressure. In addition, Washington still blitz. When you have a good front four like Washington does, historically you have teams like that who don't blitz because they don't need to. But Washington wants to get those one-on-ones on the offensive line versus the defensive line, so they're still going to bring pressure. And that's something the Steelers didn't need to do, but the Steelers have a different kind of style of defense. So if I was the Washington football team, I'd be completely content with my 4 on their 5, and I wouldn't bring the blitz, but I think they might anyway. So if it was me, I would absolutely trust Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, Chase Young. I would trust these players to go 4 on 5 against the Bills offensive line and just see where it is. Put more people into coverage and let Josh Allen hold the ball a little bit longer, because Josh Allen against the blitz is actually pretty good. So you want to get pressure on him without bringing and devoting extra rushers. And if I was the Washington football team, that's what I want to do. If I end up not getting pressure on him, so be it. I'll bring some extra men, but I wouldn't start the game there. I would start the game going, I think my 4 can beat your 5.
Absolutely. And understanding where both sides are at, Washington's defense and Buffalo's offense, is it safe to say that, I guess in your opinion, I guess, is it safe to say that though that the Buffalo coaches and their players are looking at this game as a potential get right game for Allen and the offense, given Washington's struggle two games into the season?
When you have a defense that's as talented as Washington's is, I don't think you look at this and go, oh, this is our opportunity to get right. If it happens to go that way, so be it. But I don't think you circle on schedule. I think you circle a game on the schedule where William Jackson and Chase Young are playing against you and go, yeah, no, we're going to be fine there. Now, you might end up being fine because Washington's defense has underperformed thus far this year. But when you have this much talent, You can't count on that underperforming continuing. If anything, you're thinking we can't let them have their get right game against us rather than the inverse. You're not looking at Washington's defense going, all right, this is our opportunity. Instead, we're going, okay, don't screw it up. Don't let them get right against us more so than let's get right against them.
Absolutely.
And absolutely. Yeah, Bruce. So let's switch on to the defensive side of the ball. Now, the Bills so far, 2 games in, second best defense in the NFL, so they're right on par for what they've been doing for the past couple of years under Leslie Frazier. But what's gotten them off to this strong start so far? What part of the defense can you say is really the strength right now?
For the first couple years of Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott, the strength of this defense was the secondary. It was Trey White, it was Micah Hyde, it was Jordan Poyer. Those 3 of the 4 back-end players were what was holding this defense together. Last year, the Bills made a significant investment in the defensive line, and they just didn't get return for it. They brought in Mario Addison, they brought in Quentin Jefferson, they drafted AJ Epinesa, and the returns in 2020 for those players were just not that good, quite frankly. Ed Oliver didn't have the year that you wanted him to have. Star Lotulelei opted out, which means you had players playing out of position on the defensive line. This year, in addition to a revamped defensive line, they have healthy linebackers. Matt Milano was hurt last year. Trey Edmonds was hurt last year. So you have a healthy front 7 that's retooled this year. Gregory Rousseau has looked like an absolute star in the making, which a lot of people thought Gregory Rousseau was going to be a project, right? He didn't play in 2020 in college. So they thought, okay, you know what? He's toolsy. You draft him in the back half of the first round. You let him sit for a little bit. You work on the tools, he'll come around. But he came in and was immediately playing more effectively than the supposedly pro-ready second-round pick, Boogie Basham out of Wake Forest, who had played for multiple years in college and had tons of games under his belt. So Gregory Rousseau has been a revelation. AJ Epinesa, who was previously a 2020 second-round pick, who got very, very, very little activity his first year and went through an entirely new body composition. They asked him to drop like 30 pounds. Completely different player. Because when AJ Epinesa came out of college, they were like, what do you do with this guy? Do you have him bulk up and play 5-tech? Are you looking at like an Eric Armstead kind of player? Or do you have him drop weight and try and play him on the edge? So they had him drop weight and play him on the edge. And that basically took a year to pay off. So now you're starting to see the payoff from AJ Epinesa. You're seeing the immediate impact from Gregory Rousseau. Ed Oliver starting to play at his potential. So you have all of a sudden, these things just start kind of piling on each other and the defensive line's playing better. When you combine that with the fact that both of your major linebackers are healthy, the front 7 is the biggest difference between last year when they took a step back in defense and this year where they took a step forward in defense.
Okay, so Bruce, that's scary hearing from me as a Washington fan. Like, I already knew your defense was good, but hearing you talk about it now, it's just like, all right, man, like you had me worried. And I watched the Dolphins and the Steelers game. I was able to watch both of those games. And Leslie will send the house any kind of way from any kind of angle. I mean, it's been impressive. But how do you think, because the first 2 games he faced Big Ben, who can be considered a statue, and for the most part, Jacoby Brissett, also a statue. How do you think they anticipate attacking Taylor Heineke, who's kind of known more as a mobile quarterback?
I think what you're going to see is you're going to see less stunts and less games from the ends because you're going to see compression style rushes from Gregory Rousseau and Jerry Hughes, because we're okay bringing Matt Milano up the gut in an A-gap blitz. You'll see a lot of double mugs from the Buffalo Bills. They'll bring Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano up into the A-gaps, and they'll bring one of them, but you don't really know which one. And then the other one will drop out. So you'll have 5-on-5. But what you won't see is you won't see a lot of looping inside from Jerry Hughes or Gregory Rousseau, because they're going to want to compress that pocket and keep Taylor Heineke in it because he's a more significant athlete. And when you compress the pocket on players like that, they start to get a little antsy, especially when they can see the pressure coming and it modifies their throwing motion. So I think if I were Leslie Frazier, I say, listen, we're okay doing the things we did last week against Jacoby Brissett and Tua Tagovailoa until he got knocked out of the game. But I don't want to see a lot of games on the edges because I need to maintain your ability to pin him in. Listen, if he wants to get out of the pocket, that's fine. He's going to have to turn his back to the line of scrimmage and weasel his way out the back. Like, that's what we're going to have to do in order for him to do that. And that's what I would be telling my defensive ends if I was Leslie Frazier.
Got it. And as far as our best player on offense is clearly Terry McLaurin. Now, is there a cornerback that will travel with him, or does Buffalo just kind of let whoever's on his side just get him?
You've seen a little bit of Tre'Davious White traveling, but not as much as you would think. So I would be surprised, I think, if Trey White actually followed Terry McLaurin all over the field, because it's not something they historically do. They value the zone-based concepts. I think you'll see a lot of palms coverage. I think you'll see a lot of scenarios where it's a pattern match, and you'll see a lot of help for Levi Wallace and Micah Hyde. Micah Hyde is one of the best deep ball defenders in the NFL. The reason why the Buffalo Bills, even last year when their pass defense took a hit, they still weren't giving up a ton of good plays. A huge explosive plays against the Buffalo Bills defense, and it's mostly because of Micah Hyde. So I would expect to see him over top of whoever it is who lines up across from Terry McLaurin, but I would be surprised if Tre'Davious White followed McLaurin everywhere he went.
Yeah, and just listening to this, I'm wondering now, this is my last question. Do we have any potential weaknesses that we may be able to exploit on that side of the ball for us against you all?
I think if you can get Terry McLaurin matched up against Levi Wallace, I think that's an opportunity. Levi Wallace is a perfectly technically profound and good quarter, right? But he lacks physical traits. So when you have people who have special traits with speed, special traits with size, Terry McLaurin's already one of the top 5 route runners in the NFL right now. So if you have the ability to get him matched up on Levi Wallace, if you can somehow manipulate to be able to get Levi Wallace on Terry McLaurin, I think that's an opportunity.
So for Buffalo, we did read off the injury report earlier, but are there any? So we kind of know who's around and who's not, but are there any concerns like that you all are talking about? Who's somebody that may actually not play that's outside of the injury report, because we're just reading a piece of paper.
Not outside of the injury report. I mean, Levi Wallace and Dane Jackson are both limited, but I don't see anything that indicates that there's great concern at that point. Star Lotulelei had a groin injury earlier, but he was moving pretty well in practice today. So nothing outside of the injury report that we got to think about.
Absolutely. Hey, so let's go ahead and close it out with a prediction, man. So Bruce, who wins and why do they win?
I don't think this is the bounce back game for the Buffalo Bills offense. I think at this point, it's a matter of the Buffalo Bills offense getting enough. I don't think you're going to blow up at this point. I'll say 21-17 Buffalo. I think it's going to be real tight. It's just a matter of sample size with Taylor Heineke. It's really that simple. Whenever you have young quarterbacks against very experienced defensive coordinators, sometimes their ability to have games where they are a little bit off is part of the growing process. And there's a lot of people outside of Washington, I want to speak for you guys, Heineke. They think he has an opportunity to be a diamond in the rough from Old Dominion, undrafted. He's got a good enough arm. He's got good enough athleticism. Is this guy a Ryan Fitzpatrick kind of quarterback, right? Is that what we're looking at from Taylor Heineke? And for me personally, I think that there's an opportunity for Washington to continue the trend of disappointing offensive performances from Buffalo. It's simply a matter of weighing Buffalo offense versus Buffalo defense and Washington offense versus Washington defense. I think that the Buffalo defense, if they continue up their really, really good showing, maybe they can get just enough from the offense to make it work. So I'm going to go 21-17 Buffalo, but it's going to be close.
Look, I agree. So we kind of do score predictions afterwards, but I had laughed because that was my exact score prediction of this game and the outcome for Buffalo too. So I think we're on the same boat with that one, man. And with that, well, first off, Cafe, appreciate you checking in. He said 28-17 Bills, so you got them covering too. It ain't gonna be close in your opinion. Okay, I see where you at, Cafe. But appreciate you joining us, Bruce, man. Everything's been perfect, bro. You've been excellent, man. Your responses and everything. I think what really stood out to me was just how the fan base perceives things and information and processes it, and that's something that really stood out to me outside of the actual X's and O's, man. So again, appreciate you joining us. I want to give you the opportunity right now for Plug Talk. Anything that you got going on, let the people know where they can find you, read, hear from you. Anything that you got going on, boss man.
One of the best things you can do is if you're on social media, is follow people who cover the team that's not your own. So if you are listening to this podcast, you're a Washington football team person, you want to make sure you keep an eye on what the Buffalo Bills are doing. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Bruce Exclusive. And my podcast, The Bruce Exclusive, drops every Thursday on the Buffalo Rumblings podcast network. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir, man. Appreciate you for joining us.
Absolutely.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Bruce Nolan of Buffalo Rumblings and the Bruce where in the world? Bruce Exclusive, excuse me. All right, there we go. So let's go ahead and Bruce is good to go. All right, this thing is takes forever. Move, close it. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and close this thing out.
I gotta say, if anybody ever had a radio voice, is that guy. Like, that was the most radio voice I've ever heard in my life.
Man, that mic is pristine, bro. Like, god damn, like, I need to know what type of mic he got. Clearly, he's a professional. He is definitely a professional.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Dre, let's go ahead and get this thing closed out. Final score and who ends up being the game MVP. First and foremost, though, stay tuned. Well, I always do this. I got to find a way to put this into the actual stream. But for those who are listening on the podcast, stay tuned for Ante Up Consulting's official pick of the Washington football team at Buffalo Bills. Week 3 game. Ante Up so far, it is 3 weeks right now. They are 1-1 versus the spread. They have some really good things going on with Ante Up Consulting, man, and there's some close friends of mine. They do some really good work. If you are into gambling or you want to learn how to gamble and become a better handicapper, they are the people to go to. So stay tuned for the Ante Up Consultants official pick for the Buffalo Bills and Washington football game. Dre, back to you. Final score MVP.
I think we lose this game. It's going to be close, but I think we cover. I think it's going to be 24-17. I mean, that's just, objective me speaking. But of course, I'm going to be rooting like hell on Sunday for a W.
Absolutely.
But I think if it's an MVP for the Buffalo Bills, I think the guy that's going to beat us will be Josh Allen. I think that'll be the difference in the game. It's Taylor Heineke, we still don't know what to expect of him. Road game, again, second straight game he started, first time he's done that. So we clearly don't know what to expect of him again this week. So to be on the safe side, I mean, in predicting purposes, I'll say 24-17 Buffalo, but please be wrong.
Yes, please be wrong. As you all know, like I just told Bruce, this is something where I kind of anticipated a low scoring game. Not just for the case that Washington can't move the ball or aren't, that good offensively or any type of road environment. It's not the case. I just think that they're going up against a better defense. They're going up against a more sound and selfless. That's the word. Selfless defense, man. They play together, and that's going to be hard to beat when everybody's always playing, doing their individual assignments and things like that. So you have to kind of be, you have to be really good against them. And if we can execute and make the big plays and find our voids in the defense, all right, well, you're looking at probably like 26 points for Washington. But right now I'm seeing 21-17. The game MVP, I actually agree with Dre, is going to be Josh Allen. It can't be, in my head, it can't be nobody else because this offense moves through Josh Allen. Like that's how efficient they are, especially even last year and in the years where they have big games. It's always because on the back of Josh Allen. Even though they do, I like Devon Secretary and I like Matt Breida for sure. But you're looking at an offense who, if he's connecting and he's on point and he's moving, extending plays with his legs, then they're looking at a very dominant offensive game. So that's just him. But 21-17, MVP goes to Josh Allen.
Now, before we go, I do want to say this. Bruce had mentioned when I asked him what was one of the weaknesses we can attack against their defense. He mentioned attacking Levi Wallace, and that was number 2 on my list of keys for the game today in my blog. I said we need to attack Levi Wallace. He was a guy I noticed that other teams were attacking. Big Ben attacked him quite a few times. Chase Claypool had success on him. So I would love to see Terry lined up against him on Sunday. I think you can get success on that side of the football.
Here you go. For sure. So I'll leave it at that because that was actually a good catch. So actually, Dre, what you got going on tomorrow? What's your picks, man? Are you a superstitious individual, or you want to see what they play out?
You talking about the college football action?
Yeah, gambling.
Yeah. Oh, I actually haven't put nothing on the board yet. I usually go through it on Friday. Yeah.
Okay.
I go through through everything on Friday. I go through the spread. I'll take a look at it on like a Tuesday just to get a gauge for a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll see if some things move on Friday, and then I'll start putting stuff in that night. So
y'all may hate me, those who are listening and our fans in Maryland, but ladies and gentlemen, I have Kent State plus 14.5. Now, watch Maryland can still win, you know what I'm saying? For those who don't understand how gambling works, Maryland can still win, but I'm not necessarily sold they're gonna smoke Kent State. I don't think they're gonna do it. So give me that 14.5, you know what I'm saying, and see where we go from there. That's the only play I got for Saturday right now. And then tonight I got obviously Houston Texans who's about to take the field in probably about 25 minutes or so. We'll see, man. But anyway, good luck to you.
Right.
And we will see how them tickets looking like on Sunday. I'm gonna check in with you. All right. So everybody that's listening, we will be back pregame. Pregame 12 noon for Washington football and Buffalo Bills, and immediately after the game, we'll be back to recap the outcome and what happened in the game. So with that being said, appreciate everybody for watching live. Appreciate everybody who tuned in, YouTube, podcast, all that good stuff. Help us out with some reviews or likes or whatever, and give your opinion on what you think this show is doing for you, man. So with that being said, we out of here. Y'all be safe. Enjoy the weekend. Peace.
Whole hard in the trenches. Ask a nigga what he benching. Triple digits, nigga. Don't forget to mention. Whole hard in the trenches.